So let's, sort of restart again and say, tell me about yourself and how you became involved in ed tech.
Absolutely. So I've been in education for 26 years. Started off as a middle school math teacher and absolutely loved that. Really, really enjoyed teaching. Had a great time. Did that for 7 years here in Ohio at North Canton, which I still live just north of there, so still in my neck of the woods. And the whole time I was a middle school math teacher, I was also very interested in technology. Now, we didn't have much technology back then, but I definitely love technology, tried to use it in my classroom as much as possible. So even before we had all the things we have nowadays, I was doing projects with schools in other parts of the state or other parts of the country just through email, just connecting with other schools around the country. So our math students could interview their math students on, questions that then they would make charts and graphs out of and compare our school to their school and all kinds of stuff like that. So I always loved what technology provided us with, that it opened up my classroom so that I could, connect my kids with folks around the world. And even then it was just email, but hey, it worked. So 7 years into being a teacher, we had a bit of a change in that Ohio had a new initiative called SchoolNet, in which they had money to give to schools for two things: connectivity and computers. And so basically what they wanted was every school in Ohio to get wired, because we had very, very little connectivity. And so every school was going to get, T1 lines coming in and, connectivity between the buildings. And that was fantastic. And then the second part of that was computers. They gave enough money that schools could purchase one computer for every 5 students in the school population. So out of nowhere, about 7 years into teaching, suddenly we've got connectivity in every building and we've got computers in every classroom. And that's when the school said, well, this is fantastic, but we need somebody to, help with all this. Now that we have the computers, what do we do with them? It's,
Yeah.
one thing to get them in, but now what do we do? So they created a position, which most of the time now we'll call something like a tech coach or a tech integrationist. They called it a tech specialist. And I applied for that position thinking, well, I really like technology a lot. I think this might be a real fun thing to do. I knew I was going to miss the classroom. I loved teaching the kids, but I also love technology. So I took a chance on it, and that was it. That was a wonderful match for me. So at that point, I became the tech integrationist for the school district and stayed with the district for another 14 years, doing that, plus wearing several other hats as time went on, because that's how things are with technology. You end up, if it's got electricity in it, somehow you're responsible. So by the
Yeah,
end,
yeah, the
yeah, I mean,
electric stapler
I
wheeling,
was
right?
I was running Cat 5 cables and everything. It just depended on whatever needed done.
Yeah.
And then for the last 6 years, I'm doing the exact same thing, but now I've moved to the county level. So instead of being at just the one district like I was, I now support about 35 school districts in Northeast Ohio. North Canton still being one of them, the school I was at. They're still one of the districts that I help support. So now I do professional development in the school districts or at our main county office. People come to us. I do lots of webinars. I do newsletters. I do blog posts. I do anything I can to try to get this information out to my schools in as many ways as possible, because you're trying to reach people and they're all spread out all over the place, and you got to get creative and find ways to do that. So that's basically what my main day job is, so to speak. Throughout this time, though, I've also become a Google trainer, and as a Google certified trainer, that's opened up opportunities for me to then go outside of my neck of the woods. And so on my own, I do consulting and training separately from my regular job, which first it was just Ohio, and over time it's spread. So now I just have the absolute wonderful privilege to travel all over the country and work with schools on rolling out Google apps, or, using Chromebooks, or, coming to their conference and doing a full day of training of different topics, whatever it is they need. So that's been pretty much my path that's, got me to where I'm at now in educational technology.
That's awesome, and we talked about it a bit earlier. You're really all over the place. I mean, you're in multiple states and really covering the Midwest pretty heavily. Sounds like so. That's
Yeah.
super cool. That's amazing. Now, looking at you, I actually found you on Twitter, and one of the things I noticed right away was you had like 23,000 followers, and well, 23,001 now that I'm following you, but
All
still.
right.
But how is tools like Twitter and social media tools, I don't know, Facebook, RSS
Sure.
feeds, that sort of, how's
Oh,
that
yeah.
influenced your career and the way you can reach out to others?
Oh, it's been incredibly powerful. That's the beauty of technology, is breaking down those, boundaries, and we don't have to live in a silo. The world is flat. We can connect with anybody anywhere in the world. So I would say two ways: social media and, technology in general of that sort has had an impact on me. One, of course, is getting my content out to people. So anything I create, just my philosophy of it is I just give it away for free. That's how I prefer to do things. If I come up with a neat lesson or an awesome template that you can use in Google Slides, or a training video, I just put it out on my blog, and it's available for anybody to use. I think as an educator, that's how I like to do it. I think that we're better together. I think that, anytime we can share information, that's fantastic. So that's how I prefer to do it. I just put the stuff out there, and social media has allowed me to do that by, having my blog at Control Alt Achieve, my blog. Anything I put on there, any of my webinars, my templates, my training information, I share on Twitter. I share on Facebook. I share on, Edmodo. I share on, really any network that's out there. The Google Plus communities, things like that. And that has really allowed me to get that content out to a broad audience. And we mentioned the fact that, yeah, I've had the chance to go around the country working with schools all over the place. And the only reason is because I was willing to share my stuff, and they found me. That's really it. I mean, they're like, oh, this is really cool. This neat stuff Eric's sharing. Hey, we have a conference coming up. Maybe we should have him come in and talk, because he shares this really cool stuff. And so it's just opened up all those amazing opportunities. So that's one aspect of it, is it gives me a way to, take things that I have found or that I've created and share out with others. The second part of it, though, is it's my professional development. It's how I learn. And so I collect so much information from all the things that we've mentioned there. I mean, I listen to loads of podcasts. I subscribe to hundreds of blogs. I use the Feedly RSS tool to pull all the blogs together, and I subscribe to just, again, dozens and dozens and dozens of blogs. And instead of having to go to each one of the blogs individually, I just go to Feedly. If I go there once a day, I can see, here's the most recent blog posts from all of these amazing blogs that I've curated over time, and boom, 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 I can just go down the list and find out what's new, what neat things people are sharing, and anything I find there, of course, I'm going to retweet. I'm going to push out, to the rest of the world. The same thing with, getting information off of Twitter, whether it's through Twitter chats, following hashtags, connecting with people. That's how I learn new things. Now, it can be a ton to manage, because that's a lot of information. It really is. And they can become overwhelming. And so you do have to get creative and come up with a workflow that works for you. Now, my workflow that at least at the moment, that seems to work best for me, is using things like Feedly as an RSS feed to pull in the blogs. And then for Twitter, I like to use a tool called Nuzzle. And what Nuzzle does, and you can do it as a web page or a mobile app, what Nuzzle does is it takes everybody that you follow, and it aggregates, like, what are the most popular things that people are tweeting, retweeting, somehow interacting with. And it bubbles those up to the top. And so I follow like, 5,000 people or whatever on Twitter. And so what Nuzzle will do is check all those folks and show me, here's the top 10 things people are talking about today. That's, I would never have the time to be able to go through and do that myself, but I can pull up Nuzzle and like, those are obviously the hot topics right now in educational technology. And so then I can, read those, and just like I'm reading the RSS feeds. And then what I typically do after things bubble up, either through Nuzzle or things I find on the RSS feeds, I'll then take anything I find and I throw it into Pocket. Pocket, again, is a website. It's a mobile app, and Pocket is basically bookmarks, and you're saving, articles or things like that. But what's nice about Pocket is a couple things. I'm able to label it. So anything I throw in Pocket, I'll just put a label with it. Like maybe it's something to do with Google Sheets, or maybe it has to do with assessments, or maybe it has to do with Breakout EDU. I just label them as I throw them in there. So over years, I now have these labels filled with, dozens of relevant articles and resources on pretty much any ed tech topic. And then the other thing I love about Pocket is because it's collected that for me, it has a great text-to-speech tool. So what I can do is I can just, jump on Nuzzle, jump on my Feedly RSS feeds, find some cool things, boom, 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 throw them into Pocket. And then later when I'm traveling, or when I'm, mowing the yard, or when I'm doing whatever, I can pull it up on my phone, and then I can just have Pocket read all those articles to me. So that, again, I'm getting the information, but I'm trying to squeeze it into a crazy busy life as it is normally. So, that, and I do have a blog post on my site about taming Twitter. So if you go to Control Alt Achieve and just do a quick search for taming Twitter, it'll talk through exactly all of those steps of how I find good people to follow, and how I use Nuzzle to find the best stuff, and how I use Pocket to collect it. And so yeah, I guess to summarize all that, social media and all those tools, it's my professional development. It's how I learn. It's how I connect with people all around the world. And it's how I share out things that I create as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I actually ran across Pocket a while back, early in this, in my education, and I found it to be really useful. So it's funny you mentioned Pocket, because I think that's a really cool tool. I check out the Twitter stuff. I don't have enough followers and feeds and stuff that it's overwhelming at this time, but I can imagine as it grows, it's hard to filter all that stuff out. So sort of on a personal note here, though, you've got a great website and a blog, and I'm really new to this, and it's intimidating to put myself out there as an expert because I don't really know that much, but I want to contribute. And you mentioned earlier on that, hey, you give everything out freely, and I think that's awesome, because that's part of the connected learning. That's part of the that personal learning network, professional development network, is you've got to give and take. And for me, it's been just hard to say. I hate to put stuff out there and everybody goes, oh, that's just, yeah, we all knew that already. But I mean, how did your online presence come to be, and how did you talked about it a little bit already, that you were on the bleeding edge of technology, but for somebody like now, for me, it's a little bit different, because I don't want to rehash old stuff. I want to be relevant. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's always a concern. I have the exact same, what you just said, I have the exact same concern. Whenever I go to post something on the blog, I'm like, well, people probably already know this. I worry about the same thing. So, you're not alone in that at all. I think that's very normal for just about anybody who posts. That nagging thought is in the back of your head. Yeah, this is, people probably already know about this. Well, what it comes down to is, yes, some people are going to know about that, but there's always folks who don't. There's always people that are learning, and that never ceases to amaze me how many new learners we have constantly. And so if I do a blog post on I don't know, I'll just pick a random one, like I did one on, the different Google fonts that are available, how Google has, their font archive with 800 different fonts, Well, I'm thinking everybody knows that. Everybody knows if you click on the font menu in Google Docs, there's all these fonts there. Well, not necessarily, and so, I ended up doing a blog post on that explaining, how to find them and, how to search through them and some of my favorite fonts. And there are folks out there that was exactly what they needed, and they absolutely loved that. And that's great. So I guess my first encouragement is just to share. Don't let that hold you back, that you're worried somebody, that people are already going to know that thing. Yes, some are going to, but not everybody's going to. There's always going to be people who need to learn. And so I would say just share, put things out there. Now, having said that, yeah, I think at some point you want to sort of find your niche to a degree. You need to find sort of what is your thing that you're sharing, because, yeah, I mean, we could all just share, all the basics, and then, yeah, you might start to look similar to other sites and feel like, am I really contributing something new? Am I really adding to the space? So over time, I think that's just something we all develop. I think we all over time say, what excites me? What gets me pumped up about educational technology? And so some folks end up, their blog focuses on Google tools, others it focuses on Apple tools, others it focuses on VR and AR. I think over time you start to maybe find your niche. For me, it is definitely Google tools, without a doubt. Now I do veer outside of that, but it's primarily Google tools. And the main focus of mine is creative uses of them. That's kind of where I've fit in over time. It's like the thing I care the most about is, here's this tool, and hey, here's a cool way you can use it that maybe you hadn't thought of, And so that's kind of the thing I mostly focus on, is fun, creative, ways that technology can be used in a practical sense in the classroom. And, if I go back over the years, that thread's been there, but of course there's been other things I focused on over time, but that's kind of where I've wound up at now. I've seen a lot of folks who have started a blog just in the last, year or the last year and a half, and they, just kept sharing and sharing and sharing their stuff. And, and now, they've become very well known, and rightfully so. And people are excited about the things that they have to share. And I'm happy to be able to follow them now, and have them added to my RSS feed so that I can get great new ideas from them as well. So, my advice would be, don't worry about it. Just do it. Put it out there. Yeah. Put it out there.
So,
yeah.
I appreciate that. That's good advice. So, next question is, Laurel or Yanni?
Yeah.
No, just kidding. But based on that sort of that premise, there is, how do you see social media as a component of education?
Well, I mean, I really do think when it comes to social media and education, it is a matter of connecting folks that aren't maybe, across the hall from you. You take a school district where maybe it's a smaller school district, and you've got a person who teaches, a class that's a little more specialized. Maybe they're, an art teacher, a music teacher, maybe they teach, Calc 3 or something like that. It's real easy to feel alone. It's real easy to say, I'm kind of the only one of me that does, nobody else is teaching exactly what I'm teaching here, and I feel kind of alone. Well, you're not. There's thousands of people around the world that teach what you teach, and it's a matter of connecting with them. And there's no excuse anymore. There's no reason not to connect with people all around the world. If you love Facebook, great. Join some Facebook groups. There's tons of educational Facebook groups. If you like Twitter, find some hashtags that you connect with and start following those and doing some Twitter chats. If it's Google Plus, there's loads of communities out there. The point is, we can we can connect with a much, much larger group than we ever could just within our own schools. And even if, even if your school is maybe a little bit bigger, it doesn't mean that everybody in there shares your passion. It could be that there's some folks that still have a ways to go before they get more comfortable with technology. And in the meantime, again, you need to be connecting with people who are going to inspire you and encourage you. And so, that's the way I would look at it. Social media basically just gives us the world's biggest staff lounge. I mean, you can find anybody in the world, to connect with, to inspire you, to encourage you, to learn from, and for you to share back with them.
Yeah. That's amazing, and I agree with you. I think that's awesome. What we have now is the ability to connect with people in ways that we've never had. I mean, the last 10 years have just been explosive in the ability to do that. And my goal is to try to utilize that as to the best we can. So any other advice for? I'm a newbie. Like I said, I'm just really starting my career in educational technology. Any other advice, or just things you'd say, do this or don't do this? Thoughts?
So I guess it depends on getting a phone call in there while we're on the call.
That's right.
I would say it depends on what aspect you're talking about. If you're talking about your own personal growth and development, I think a lot of things we've talked about are absolutely fantastic for that. With connecting with other educators and connecting with blogs and Twitter and conferences and things like that. I guess the other end of it is now making an impact in your school district. So you're growing and you're learning and you're improving yourself. But we need to be able to connect with the folks in our districts and that we're supporting. They don't necessarily have the same excitement that we might. I mean, I'm a nerd and I'll admit it, and it doesn't take much to get me excited about technology. Unfortunately, some folks in education are overwhelmed by, we've got testing and we've got all these obligations we need to fulfill, and how am I going to fit in one more thing, and I don't have a comfort level myself with technology. So I think a real key thing is bridging that gap with people. And so I mean, things that I would say is meet folks where they're at. So find out what their pain points are, and find out, like, what's your biggest struggle? What's where are you having difficulty? What's a challenge for you that would be great if somehow technology could address it, and meet people where they're at as far as their needs, but also with their skill levels. I think I like to say that one of the reasons I've been able to be successful in teaching adults is because I did teach children. And I learned from that. And there's no reason that teaching adults should be boring, or it should not be necessarily that different from teaching kids, because we're all learners. And so, I mean, I spent 7 years trying to convince adolescent, pubescent, kids that fractions were important. I was trying to tell middle schoolers that, fractions should be important. And so I had to be creative. I couldn't just stand up there. I mean, we had to do activities. We had to, when I was teaching them how to multiply mixed numbers, we cooked pancakes in class. I'm like, okay, guys, I got this recipe for pancakes, but it only feeds this many, and we got this many in class. We have to increase this recipe, 2 2/3 times. So how can we do that? So we're multiplying mixed numbers and learning how to do that. And then we cooked pancakes and we ate them in class, and you got to do that kind of stuff to make it exciting. Well, why do we stop then when we work with adults and suddenly think that, they're adults, so they should just sit there politely and listen to what I have to say? We need to still be fun and engaging and exciting when we work with adults as well. So, I would absolutely encourage folks, if you're in a role as a tech coach, a tech integrationist, find out where your people are at. find where their pain points are, what are things that you can help them with, and then when you do provide training, when you do help them, make it as exciting as you, and it's going to be different for everybody. Everybody's got their own idea of exciting, but make it interactive at least. Make it something that is going to be enjoyable and fun, because we want them to do that with their kids. So our adult education shouldn't just be people sitting in rows and columns and getting a lecture given to them if we don't want them to turn around and do the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, fantastic advice. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. Eric, I can definitely say that I am better for knowing you, and I appreciate
Oh, hey, that's great. Well, we all are. I say we're all better together.
Yeah.
That's how we all grow.
Again, thanks again for your time
You bet.
and this session here, and hope to be in touch with you.